aged care. I want to hear your stories of navigating getting a family into aged care. I wonder whether you have done that recently, and how did you find it? How easy was it? And particularly, how easy was it to work out all the different costs? And did they make sense to you? It's not just when you go into aged care, of course. It's also what happens when someone leaves. What happens then? My next guest is a Drive listener. He called into the program with his experience. Michael, welcome to Drive.
Hello, Ellie, that's me.
That is you. So your mum's recently gone into aged care. Before we get to all the complexities here, is she all settled?
Yes, finally.
Good. So what are the issues as you see them around costs?
No, it's about a year ago. Mum was suffering from dementia and we wanted to move her into aged care. A few things caused that not to happen at that particular time. But within 3 weeks of the first attempt, the price went up by 7% to go in, and the rate that Mum has to pay on her residential aged care deposit that she can't pay went up by 100%. And then we found that...
this is in the space of 3 weeks while you're talking to them?
Yeah. I guess they'll say, well, it's got to happen at some time. But anyway, and then with some other things recently, I've found that the amount that Mum hasn't paid for her residential aged care, if when she leaves aged care, they'll pay us 2%, 2.2%. Anyway,
so in other words, you're being hit with
the government is just not telling us all the story.
So essentially you're paying a high interest rate on the bits that your mum hasn't paid, so the bit that's left unpaid and therefore is a debt to them. But when at the other end of this process, when they owe you money, they'll be paying a far lesser interest rate.
Yeah.
How did the aged care facility explain that to you?
I haven't approached them at this point. But I will. But I think they just say, well, it's government rates.
It must be. Have you found it sort of complicated or just frustrating? This sort of thing and the whole process around it.
Frustrating from the point of view of the provider, but they're doing their best, I think. Complicated by trying to deal with aged care government departments. Unbelievably complicated.
And just that the whole finances are complicated, aren't they? The sort of, there's the deposit, then there's the monthly fees, then there's the entry fee. It's not a simple process.
No, that's true. So you've got to pay the residential aged care deposit, and whatever's left over, you pay the daily fee. Which is calculated at the 8.38. And there is some other things I found that say that once you enter, even if the rate reduces, you got to still pay the rate when you entered.
Okay.
So
no, I think
really...
you're perplexed. And look,
Yeah.
Michael, I share how you are perplexed and why you are perplexed. Look, thanks for giving us a call. We are trying to sort of work out why it is that there are such sharply different, certainly, interest rates. Thank you for joining us.
No, that's okay. Just a quick one. Earlier today, Raph and David Whiting talked about the similar thing, and they were also perplexed.
Well, that doesn't bode well, does it, for getting an answer on it? Michael, thanks for your time.
Cheers, bye.
That's Michael, a Drive listener who got in touch, perplexed about some of the arrangements around aged care. Give me a call if you too have been perplexed when it comes to the aged care finances. Rachel Lane is the principal of Aged Care Gurus. They advocate and educate people on retirement living and aged care. Rachel Lane, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Can we just start with that story, with Michael's story, and the fact that on unpaid money that his mum owes is at around 8% interest rate, but at the other end, when they owe him money, it'll be at around 2% interest rate. How can this be so different?
Yeah, so it's called the Maximum Permissible Interest Rate, sometimes abbreviated to MPIR, is the interest rate you pay on any unpaid RAD. And
just explain what the RAD is.
Sorry, the refundable accommodation deposit.
Yeah.
So when aged care homes set their price, they set it as a refundable accommodation deposit, and then the interest rate is used to convert it to a daily payment. So at the moment, that interest rate is 8.38%. That interest rate gets adjusted quarterly. It certainly has gone up, but it hasn't gone up as quickly as Michael was saying. So in October 2021, so obviously COVID and all of those factors were pushing interest rates down, and we had the lowest interest rate, which was 4.01%. Since then, it's steadily increased each quarter to the current 8.38%, but it is tied to interest rates. The other interest rate that Michael's talking about on the refund, actually the aged care homes will pay that 8.38% if they don't refund his mum's money within the legislated time frame. Now, broad brush, the legislated time frame is 14 days. So if his mum was to give notice and move to another aged care home, or was to go back to her own home, for example, they would need to refund that money within 14 days. If they don't refund within that 14 days, they will then be paying her 8.38%. But for those 14 days, they pay an interest rate which at the moment is 2.25%.
Is that fair, though? Michael's mum doesn't get any dispensation for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I completely get it. The interest rate that is linked to is the deeming rate, so the rate that Centrelink used to calculate how much you earn on your investments. So they're linked to two different rates, and that's why. And that rate has actually been frozen since 2020, since June 2020. It was due to be reviewed in June this year, and it was reviewed, but they decided to keep the freeze for another year. Call me cynical, but maybe just because that takes them past the next election, Ellie.
Yes, indeed. Just on that, the 8.38% that you're paying on the bit that's converted into the regular payments, is that going to change? Like, as interest rates start to turn, will that come down?
It does. So it gets adjusted every quarter, but it's fixed based on the day that the person moves in. So people who moved in back in 2020, they're still paying 4% for their daily accommodation payments. But people who move in today or in the current quarter are paying 8.38%.
And if it changes, though, next quarter they'll go down?
Yes, but only for people who move into aged care or move from one aged care home to another.
Because it's a calculation that's made at the outset.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah. It's not easy, though, is it, Rachel?
No, and that's just one part of it. You know, you've got to decide whether you pay by lump sum or you pay by daily payment, and that's a more kind of complex thing than just, I don't want to pay 8.38%.
Yep. No, look, it's the whole thing can be very complicated. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
No worries.
Rachel Lane there, Principal of Aged Care Gurus. Hats off to you if you understand getting into aged care.